Elite Physique University, your source for all things physique enhancement.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Elite Physique University. I'm John Gorman, your host. Jason, we are on 20 episodes. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well here on this Thursday night. That's awesome, and I know we've grown fast for 20 episodes, so all good stuff.
We're almost at 300 reviews. Almost all 5 stars. So I'm super happy with that. And we do have a winner to pick. You know, for those of you that are just tuning in, we've been doing a contest where people have sent in a screenshot of their review to me on Instagram, and I put a shit ton of people in a hat, man. I had 80 people that actually did it, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And we're both big on giving back. You've hooked people up with supplements from New Ethics, your company. Yep. I thought, you know what, man, I'm going to go ahead and, with this economy being shit like it is right now, let's do something cool. Let's get back.
Yeah, this is big.
Yeah. So we talked about it and we're like, okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and give away year prep with me. And I do have that winner, and that winner is at Little Reppin' Red. That's Elena Hayden.
Nice.
Elena,
Congrats.
Congratulations. Yeah. I'm looking forward to working with you. So just hit me up, send me a DM on Instagram, and we'll connect through email, and I will get you all set up, whether it's prep or off season, whatever you need. We've got it. So guys, we do appreciate that once again. Please keep leaving the reviews. We're 20 episodes in. We're trying to grow this bitch like crazy, and the reviews they're just a big part of it. So we're going to do an Ask Us Anything. We've been doing, we started off with an Ask Us Anything to kick off the episode 1. And then somewhere around 10 or 11, we did another one. So it's like every 10 episodes or so, we're just going to compile all these questions that you guys send in. You can always send those to me at Instagram at team_Gorman. You can hit Jason up as well. You're at Scooby Prep IFBB Pro 1, right? I never can remember.
IFB Scooby Prep _IFBB Pro 1. Yep.
Yeah. There's not a lot of Scooby Preps out there, so they're definitely going to find you if they search you. You can send Jason your questions, and we kind of compile these, and we've got some good ones today. But before we get to that, what's new with you this week, man? You got any good news that you want to pass on to the listeners?
Business is still great. People are investing in health, getting healthy. So that's cool. But yeah, I brought on a new coach, and I wanted to announce that. I'll make a formal posting on, my social soon, but, Meredith Pachi, she was a client of mine, still is, worked through a ton of health issues. And she just, showed a real desire to become really educated on a lot of the things that I hold near and dear, which is not just being able to get someone to look good, but also taking care of their health as you're doing this. And so when I saw that passion, I thought, man, I know that it's time for me to bring on another coach. So she's been taught up on the hormonal issues and metabolic compensation, plus all the other just normal coaching stuff. But so if someone's out there is listening and they were wanting a female touch on that, I have that to offer too. So that's been a big undertaking, and I'm glad that she's almost on board here. Well, she is, but I haven't announced it officially. But I am now on the podcast telling everyone. So yeah, I've been excited about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to drop this probably on Sunday. So I don't know if you'll have a post up by then or not, but that's exciting, man, and it's cool too because with a lot of trainers struggling right now, you're growing like crazy, and I think that's a testament to being able to help people. That's always the base of everything we do. So if you're a coach and a trainer listening, this is where you have to triple down on that. That's why we should have all gotten to it in the first place, is you have to help people. And whenever you do that, people spread the word for you. So, Jason's so busy, he's bringing on another coach. Dude, how many coaches do you have? I know you probably don't know the number off the top of your head unless you just sit and count, but you've got a handful, right?
Yeah, we've got a handful here. We're not as big as some other outfits, but I like to really vet the people. But I've got four, I think. I don't want to forget anyone, but so we're a nice sized outfit here, but not huge. But everyone's well educated. So.
No, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for you guys. Just with me, the only thing real quick is I did release my very first online class. It's resetting insulin sensitivity, and cortisol's tied in there as well. I go through a complete protocol that I do with all my clients and athletes. It's a PowerPoint presentation on Zoom. I give out the Excel document that I use that calculates everything with blood sugar and the whole protocol. And Jason, I sold like 20 spots in like the first day to that. We were talking about before we started recording.
Yep.
And you've been crushing it with your metabolic resistance class, your hormone class. And this is kind of cool, man, because we're able to help people do this stuff that's just, it's outside the box, man. We talk about a lot of this stuff on the podcast, but to be able to teach it in a classroom setting, whether it's, online or it's at the Physique Summer or wherever, like that's pretty cool. So I know we were talking, or you've got more classes coming up. I do as well. Do you want to talk about any of those now?
The cool thing about it is, they can hear us on radio and we offer, protocols and how to help, the podcast when I say radio, but in the Zoom setting, I mean, they can ask questions. And I love it when there's always that one person who isn't afraid to ask questions, and they'll just ask question after question. Everyone else is like soaking it up too. So it's been cool in that realm because, I've been really able to educate people on something that is big. There's a lot of people that need help in the area. So
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this one. It's been the first time I've done a class on Zoom. I've done other stuff with like, not FaceTime, but like Facebook Live and private groups and stuff like that, and calling into colleges. That's cool. But this will be fun. So looking forward. We'll announce some of the other classes we both have coming up, because we do have more stuff coming up. So Jason, let's get into these questions, man. Yeah. We have quite a few here. I think there's like 7 or 8 really good ones sent into both of us. I'm going to kick this off with Teresa Bonner. She wants to know, what are your thoughts on glutamine? Is it worth the money? And if so, when should I take it and how much? So Jason, we both have a shit ton of experience with glutamine. Yes. Go ahead and kick this off for us if you would.
Well, here's my take on glutamine. It's fairly cheap. So, and there are 2 areas that I like it for. I like it for gut health. So if you have gut impairment or gut issues where you might have some pain or just discomfort, it's really good for the lining of the gut, the stomach. Another area that it shines is actually cell volumization. So, if you take 10 to 15 grams around workout with your creatine and your other, pump products, it will help volumize the cell. I think in the past where people were using it was, to prevent muscle loss. And I don't think it doesn't really shine there. As was touted in the 90s. But if you have gut distress, need to rebuild a gut lining, just have general, distress in your gut, and you're doing some other things to help it. Glutamine is cheap, and at 15 grams, you can add it in the morning. You could even add another 15 grams in the evening to really coat the stomach. It's great in that realm. Or for a cell volumization. If you're trying to use it as a way to buffer muscle loss, there's way better products, and you're going to come up kind of annoyed with your results if you're using it that way.
Yeah, I mean it's tasteless pretty much. I mean it's like a fine creatine really if you think about it. Like you're not going to taste it. It's just tasteless powder. Mixes really well. Should anyway if you get a high quality product. You guys sell it over at you sell it on Scooby Prep and nattynutrition.com, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So people can be able, you guys can grab it there. Yep. Man, I remember back in the day when it was a little more sexy, back in like 2008, 2009, like I would carb up some of my clients, 2010, I'd carb them up and I would have them alternate, a teaspoon of creatine at one meal and then a teaspoon of glutamine at the next meal.
For cell volumization.
Cell volumization and carving up and stuff like that. And then, back then we would take it pre and post workout. Yes. To me, it was always 10 grams pre, 10 grams post. Yes. And that's just what I always thought back then. And then I've just really gotten away from it, man. So the last, 8 years. But I do need to get back to it, especially from the gut health perspective.
Yeah. And I use it a lot in the gut health realm because it's cheap. And you sometimes get clients that are like, look, man, I can't take enzymes, betaine hydrochloric, a probiotic and this and that, and then this and that, and you're like, okay, well, what are some other cheaper things here I can get done with, and you start thinking aloe vera and glutamine and this and that. And so, I really think it shines for gut health is mainly.
Yeah. And I know like if someone has acid reflux, or if you have like any kind of indigestion, start throwing it in your drinks every single day, and it helps knock that down a little bit
Yep.
too. But yeah, I mean, good product. So the next question comes from Leah Davis. Why do I struggle to sleep when carbs are lower? And this one was sent in to you, so if you
Yes.
would go ahead and take that one.
Yeah, I'll start, and then I'm sure you might have some other takes. So I think there's two main reasons. Number one, as carbs are dropping, serotonin levels start to drop off, and serotonin is one of the feel good, relax neurotransmitters. And so when that's low, you're not going to sleep as well. And actually, the last 4 hours of sleep are heavily dictated by serotonin. So if I know someone gets woken up early, like 3 a.m., like every night, I start adding things like 5-HTP because they're probably on prep, or maybe they're taking Tren, which zaps serotonin. So I look at 5-HTP. But also what's going on is, as carbs are dropping, usually cardio is going up, at least for a while. You're pushing harder in prep. And so cortisol can be going up too. And cortisol can get to that point where it gets flopped and it's spiking at night when it should be going lower. And that can keep you awake too. So, those are my two kind of things. The last one is just blood sugar kind of being dysregulated. If you are someone who wakes while your carbs are low with the sweats, or even just like really hot, that's probably your blood sugar's dipping too low. And that's waking you up too. So there's kind of three things that can be going on, and all three of them can really be going on. That can be kind of complicating the issue. That's where the Cordy's that my company makes comes in. I already mentioned 5-HTP. And then, if it's the carb issue where you're waking up sweaty, you might have to save 20 grams of carbohydrates, even though you're dieting for pre-bed. And if you're in a deficit, it's really not going to matter. It's just you're not getting that then pre and post, when you could be using it to cell volumize a little better and have more energy. But those are some strategies to fix the issue.
Yeah, man, I don't have a lot to add. I know a lot of people are scared to death to have carbs before bed, and it doesn't matter how long we've been doing this or preaching that when you're in a deficit, it's really not that big of a deal. But people they're still afraid, and it makes. I mean, I'm a bro, right? I'm half bro. You are too. Like
yes.
we try to think, okay, how's the fucking body work? And for me, even though I know better now, like if I train at 1 o'clock in the day, 1 PM, and then I have, 40 carbs before I go to bed, it still sits in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to go lay in bed with 40 carbs in, even though I know, and I've even seen the research, it shows your metabolism is like the last 4 hours of sleep. It's some of the fastest times that you'll see a rise in metabolism while you're sleeping, repairing all these processes in the body because you just beat the shit out of it the day before, especially if you're in a deficit. So carbohydrates are actually really great to have before bed, not just because they help repair the processes and fuel the processes in the body, but they do help you sleep better. So it's something I just urge people, don't be scared. And I know Cliff Wilson, good friend of ours, Cliff's a little radical guy too. And he's tried some things with his clients during prep where he'll have post-workout carbs, and then he'll save his other carb meal instead at meal one. Like he'll have them take it before bed. And he's just noticed over the years, he's like, dude, they sleep better.
Yeah, they sleep better for sure. And then it's like, okay, if someone's consistently sleeping better, the fat loss is better,
Right.
I still try to generally put supplements in first. That's just my thing. But either way, you got to remedy the problem, and those are some solutions for sure.
Yeah, my number one is 2 Cordy's and 2 droppers of Relax from your company. I mean, that's you talked about adding 5
HTP.
melatonin. Yeah, well, and then melatonin a little extra to that stack too, and it just really helps drop people in. So very rarely do I have to add carbs to the end of the day, but if I had to, I wouldn't be afraid to.
No, I wouldn't either. That's exactly how I attack it.
Okay, next question comes from Jim Town. Is there ever a time you recommend training a body part twice in a day? John, I know you've talked about this before on some of your clients overreaching weeks before they do a deload, but wasn't sure if you had anyone doing this. So this is kind of this kind of sent in towards me, but obviously we both chime in. This is an interesting thing. So I remember when I went to Tampa, the University of Tampa, to my first ISSN conference, Jacob Wilson and Ben Pekulski were both there, and they talked about some research that was done on training body parts twice in a day for a short amount of period of time. And the strength and the muscle gain that came out of that when they measured it was pretty damn pronounced. And, you know, whenever you put information like that out, a lot of people, especially in bodybuilding, they take it to the extreme. They're like, well, fuck, you know, that's what Arnold did back in the day. He trained 6 days a week, body parts twice a day. And, you know, they take everything to the extreme, and they hear a little bit of information like that and they think it's great. So what I did with some of my clients for a while, and I don't generally do this much, because here's the first part. Most people don't have time to train twice in a fucking, I mean, right now we do because we're at home. So, I mean, maybe this is a good time to do it, but what most people just aren't going to do is they're just not going to do that. But it's real interesting. You know, I have my clients train different rep ranges. So, you know, I'd have a client wake up in the morning, and if they're going to train chest, I'd have them train it that morning, do 12 total sets, maybe in the 8 to 10 rep range. And then in the evening, in the afternoon, after they got 3 or 4 meals back, I'd have them go back and I'd have them, you know, train a little more volume, higher rep. And I would have them do that for 2 weeks max, which overreached their body on purpose and their central nervous system. And then I would have them deload. And I just wanted to see. And, you know, my assisted folks back then, man, they made some pretty good progress doing that around every 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah.
But my natty folks, those motherfuckers felt like trash.
Yeah.
Like they just felt like trash. And that to me is kind of the distinction where you have to understand natural versus enhanced. 100%. And that's why we talk about it on the phone. So if people want to try it, you know, I would maybe just do it with your weak body parts that you need to bring up, and do it for like 2 or 3 weeks, but then you need a deload to where you just don't train for 4 or 5 days, or you just take a break. Jason, have you ever played around with that at all?
I'll be honest with you. I would love to play around with it personally, but I don't think it would go over too well here at the Theobald household.
Yeah.
You know, I got to go to the gym twice today. You cool with that? So yeah, you know, if I was a single dude, I'm sure I would try it, especially right now, you know. I would have tried it beforehand, but you know, with my schedule, no. And so, you know, that's why I always say when I'm in there, I try to just get keyed in and make every rep, every set count. So, but I agree with what you said. It was the only thing I was going to add is that, you know, if you're a natural person doing it, you've got to really watch your number of sets. You know, I could see where you do maybe 7 in the morning and then 7 sets in the evening and or something, you know, and then hit the body part, you know, twice a week, 2 times a day or something. But if you're doing 12 to 15 sets each time, I think you're going to overtrain. I think, you know, enhanced guys can definitely get away with it. You know, there's plenty of pro bodybuilders who back in the day, when, you know, the sponsor contracts were bigger, you know, talking 80K plus, you know, they were winning purses. We're talking like guys like Jay Cutler and stuff. I think they trained 2 times a day. I think Sean Ray did as well at times. But again, they didn't have any other job but bodybuilding. So I think if you're enhanced and you got the time, I think you can definitely probably make some quick gains that way if you run it properly. But no, I've never had the chance to mess around with it, man.
Yeah, the best results I saw were definitely enhanced, but it was also when someone was on blast. Definitely not on a cruise or anything like that. So I'd always try and time it whenever they'd be, you know, loading up, so to speak. And the recovery was just through the roof. And it was interesting, man. It's a whole other world out there for folks that are natural. Like you've got to understand that you just can't do the same things that assistant folks can sometimes. So good question. It's pretty geeky. It's something I'd like to explore a little bit more. So next question comes from Mitchell Olson. I have trouble falling to sleep and waking up. I've heard my circadian rhythm is off or might be off. Can I reset this? So Jason, if you don't mind, you've talked about this quite a bit as well. And it kind of ties in a little bit to what we talked about earlier. If you don't mind, kind of explain that. Okay.
So when what your natural circadian rhythm is in the morning, usually around, and it starts around 6 a.m. and by 8 a.m., usually our cortisol is starting to peak for the day. And that's to get us up, get us ready for the day. And so it should be highest in the morning. And then as the rest of the day, it'll hit a peak. And then it starts to trickle down. And by evening, it should be at one of its lowest points so that you sleep. But this can get thrown off. Mine actually was thrown off in 2015. And I had neurotransmitter tests to show it. But my cortisol was super low in the morning and it was high at night. And so when that happens, you wake up and you feel like you're kind of walking through quicksand. And then in the evening, you can't shut your brain off and you don't sleep well. So yeah, that is definitely where you can get a completely flop circadian rhythm. So your cortisol will be low in the morning and then high at night. And you're probably asking, well, why does this happen? It can happen for a varied reasons, but mainly it's stress, and it's chronic stress, not acute where like, you see tiger and you run. More chronic stress. So think kids, bills, jobs, and then you add the stress of training. And so my companies came up with a strategy to actually fix this. And we use in the morning a product called Adrena Health, and that is to get the cortisol back up when it should be. And then, maybe 2 caps in the morning upon waking. If it's really bad, 3, and then maybe 2 or 3 more around 2 p.m. And then in the evening, you can use our Cordy's product, and that'll start bringing the cortisol back down. But while you're doing this, you need to work on your stress. You need to figure out what areas you can pull back from stress. And so a lot of people, that's training. So you might need to back your training intensity off. How many days you train? Do you do cardio? And if you can deal with other stressors in your life, then do that as well. But it's a multifaceted approach. You should be eating healthy as well. You're not gonna be able to fix a cortisol issue if your diet's high in, fast food and sugars and all that. So it's a multifaceted approach, but one that I usually tackle with supplementation, correct nutrition, and then getting the client to rest more. And then obviously looking at their lifestyle and seeing if there's some, stress issues that they can deal with to kind of lessen that stress bucket.
Yeah. And people, I encourage them to go back and listen to episode 2, our deep dive on cortisol. It really, really makes sense of a lot of the things that are going on in the body. I mean, when cortisol is high and you feel that slight, fight or flight, or it might be major, it just depends. Yep. Like, think about that. If cortisol is high before you go to bed, your body's not in a state to go to sleep. It's in a state to move and do things and fucking run from the tiger. I think we said that multiple times. So it really, that's why your products are so important to help people drop into sleep, because your Cordy's isn't a sleep aid. It's a fucking cortisol aid, which helps you go to sleep. So it's super important, man. I think we've talked about that like 4 times on the show today. Just because it's so important. So
it really is. I mean, I'm anymore, the more I study and the more I look at labs and the more I learn, I think stress and then the subsequent, increase in cortisol, and then the body being bombarded by cortisol is at the root of just about every disease, metabolic, hormonal issue there is in the human body. So you learn to control your stress and your cortisol, you will live significantly longer and much more disease-free.
You know what, man? I agree with that. And, I'll go as far as to say, I have a thought on something. Everybody talks about how everything starts in the gut and how important the gut is, and it is. But to me, I think the number one issue that people can avoid when it comes to gut issues is by avoiding their fucking stress. And I you know what I mean? Because of what cortisol does to the gut. So to me, it's like right up there at the top. I mean, it 100%. Really is. Yes. Next question is from David Garza. For super stubborn calves, because calves are stubborn, but these are super stubborn calves. What's the best 2 tips that you can give to make them grow? I swear I have fucking tried everything, in all caps. Jason, I've got a pretty good protocol that I like to help people with calves. And that's when they really have tried everything. They've tried training them 2 or 3 times a week. They've trained them, with volume. They've done everything that they can. And the only thing that I've seen really make a difference, and to me, it takes years. And now I'm talking about working with natural athletes, right? Which is what most of my athletes are these days. With my natural folks, this is what's really worked for them. Your calves are so used to being walked around on and being flexed on. And I mean, that's just the natural state of your calves that you have to really, really shock them. So there's 2 things that I've done. One is I've taken people to short bursts of 5 days of training where they're literally training them 5 days and they're changing the rep ranges every single day. So one day might be rep ranges all the way up to like 50. The next day might be heavy rep ranges of like 6 to 8. And then you do the next day at like 20, and then you start over, and you do that 5 days a week, and you just kind of pick your days off where you want. I've seen people do that, and as long as they're not getting achy and they're
Yep.
everything's not starting to feel like shit, that's worked. You just can't do it forever, so you've got to slightly deload off of that. And then once you get them to where you want, then you go back to maintenance. Maintenance to me is training them twice a week. And that's what I've done to kind of help my people. That's my first tip. And then my second one is you got to try extreme stretching. And that's probably the hardest. I think that's the worst thing that there is. I mean, training abs is probably the worst thing to me in the world because I'm a fucking fat ass. But when it comes to calves stretching, the extreme stretching between sets is something. So like, think about if you're doing calves on the leg press and you hit failure at like 18, then you hold it in the position where you're letting the weight stretch your calves down, and you hold that for like 20 seconds, and then you go again. To me, it just causes so much of a shift in what your body's used to, and it causes a lot of stretching, which does cause muscle damage. I've seen that help, but just very few people, because most people can't stick to it, and I can't, man. Like I'll do it for like a couple sets. I'm like, I can't handle that kind of pain. But I have seen that work, and the research is out there to back up the stretching, and that's been around a long time. I mean, Dante with DC, like he's been talking about extreme stretching. It's just kind of just another form of that. But those are the two things I could pass along that people could try. What do you have, Jason?
So it's funny because actually a lot of that is what I do. And I've actually brought my calves up fairly nicely. And I get like a lot of compliments on them now, which is crazy because they always sucked. I agree with you that they're constantly pounded. And so someone like myself who grew up playing soccer, that never built them for me. You would think sprinting and all the, 7 miles per game is what a midfielder who plays the whole game runs. And I usually played most of the game. And you would think that I would have had tree trunk legs and massive calves, but I didn't have any of it. So I really had to start from scratch. And it's funny because literally what you said about training them 5 days a week is what I do, but I train them first. So literally when I get to the gym, my first stop is the calf machine every single day. And I train about 5 sets every single day. And these are hard ball buster sets. If anyone looked at my face, they would think I was probably cutting off an arm. So you've got to find intensity. And the way I do that is tempos. So I love the angled calf machine. I forget exactly what they call it, but you're kind of in it at an angle, and you've kind of seen old people use it as a quad machine, but it's not. I'm hoping you guys can figure out which one that is, but usually it's got a plate at the bottom that kind of moves forward with you, and you kind of sit in it at an angle and grab the handles right around your hips. I love that machine. Love it. And so I work the hell out of that machine, but my reps are, you've got to work full range, and you can't do these fucking pump reps that people do. Like if you're doing that shit, you're not even training calves really. These reps have to be slow. When you come back to the hole, your toes got to be getting to the point where they're stretching so much. Your Achilles is stretching. The calf is just being stretched. And then you come out of that hole, not where you're bouncing. You come right out of that hole and it's all calf. And when you get to the peak and you think you've got to the peak, push even harder and flex even harder. And you should be able to grab your calves and feel the diamond back there. And that's 1 rep. I'll do anywhere, like John said, I don't ever get them to 50s because those type of painful reps, you just can't get that high, but I'll work as low as 6 all the way up to 20 based on weight. And so I do that every day. So I'm getting the stretching in with the reps, and then I'm flexing the hell out of it. There's times where I flex in a contracted state for up to 5 seconds. They're about to cramp. I'll stay in that stretch position all the way as far as I can stretch for about 5 seconds. And once you really get that mind muscle connection where every bit of it is all your calves firing and nodding and flexing, they'll come up. Now I love training calves because I see it working. Mine stay leaner, veinier, just more sinewy all year round now. And it's because I've built density and some muscle down there. So I find them really fun to train now, but literally I do that 5 times a week, about 5 sets. And it's the first body part I train every time I'm in the gym.
There you go, folks. I mean, there you have it. give that a shot and measure them like that. That's the other thing too. You need to measure them. If you're going to start something like this, measure them now. And then, probably 3-4 months, give them a little bit of time and see if some sizes come on with the tape
Yeah.
measure.
And another thing, like, see where you're lacking. Like, some people lack like depth on the side. You're going to want your toes in a little more. Some people lack that nice head on the gastroc on the inner. So then you're going to want your toes out just a little bit more. And if toes are completely straight, you're going to kind of really hit all of it. But if you want to get a little bit more in a certain area, don't be afraid to play with your toe placement either. I play with mine all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Joseph England asks, please explain SARMs and are they useful? So this is something I get a lot in my DMs, and I'm sure you are as well, Jason. What do you normally say when someone just asks that has no idea what SARMs are?
Well, I explained the technology behind them and how they're supposed to work. And what is it? Selective androgen receptor modulators. So by selective androgen receptor, they're basically saying that what they're trying to do is create a product that does not have impact on the voice. It does not have impact on the skin. It doesn't have impact on the prostate, just muscle and bone. And that's what the medical community was trying to do with these. You got to understand that what's out on the market, even though it's, I believe, legal to have them in your hand, I don't think it's legal to take them. It's weird how the laws are set up right now, but realize that they are a knockoff of the actual patented ingredient, and those are still in human trials. Are they even at human trials? Yep, maybe they're at still human trials, but they have not been approved by the FDA. So the stuff that we have on the market are knockoffs of the patents. Okay, someone's going on there reading the patents and creating these. Okay, so it's interesting that if they're only binding to muscle and bone, they really should not be causing shutdown of your natural testosterone. But I 100% can tell you S23, it is strong as shit, and it does shut down not only testosterone, but it shuts down luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and your estrogen will almost go to nothing if you're on it long enough. And it's a male contraceptive. It'll make your sperm like liquid if you're on them long enough, or if you take like 50 milligrams, which is a high dose. A lot of guys take 20. My point is with that one, you really should run some testosterone with it, or you're going to really get some side effects by about week 2. Like the first 2 weeks, you're going to feel great. You're going to be hornier. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be drier. You're going to be burning fat. Like, it's strong. But then as that testosterone dips out and that luteinizing hormone dips out and that estradiol tanks, your libido is going to go to shit. Erections are going to be harder. It's not a great product to take standalone for guys, to be honest with you. So my point is that you're kind of still experimenting on yourself. That doesn't mean I dislike them all. But the ones that I use more often are Osterine. That's a decent one for women and men as well. I find that I can get periods to stay or get back really quickly if it's a woman, around 20 mgs a day. Cardarine works really well. It increases I believe your VO2 max, so you're using oxygen better, and it also increases fat burn. And then the last one I've been researching, SR 9009 has a lot of really cool benefits. Insulin sensitivity reset on that is huge. Like, I'm talking lower in insulin levels by like 35%.
Oh, wow.
Cytokine, so your inflammatories. I posted something recently on my story about how Corona, the reason, one of the ways it kills is that it creates a cytokine storm in your body. In other words, inflammation. So if you already are inflamed, i.e. diabetes, fat, all these different things that cause body inflammation, well, yeah, you hit a cytokine storm and you're already inflamed, well, yeah, you're fucked. Right. But my point is with this SR 9009, it lowers cytokines up to 72%. So it really kicks inflammation in its ass. So, I just looked at it as, hey, if you think you got inflammation, you might want to run some of this during that right now. And it doesn't look like there's any shutdown with that SR 9009 either. So, and the other SARMs that they're out there are Rad 140. They're shut down with that too. So just know if you run it standalone, you are going to need some sort of PCT afterwards. The shutdown doesn't seem to be as bad as S23. And then the MK677, which is supposed to create a GH spike, it does, but man, after 10 days, your blood glucose is climbing 10 to 15 points on that shit. So I don't like it, and I don't use it with any of my clients ever, because you kind of lean out for a bit and get real full, and then as soon as that insulin sensitivity starts to go to crap, once you come off that, you've got a shitstorm you got to deal with in terms of getting fat, and your insulin sensitivity is just terrible. So those are some of my takes on it. Really, Osterine, Carterine are go-tos. The other ones I do use sometimes S23, but you just got to be more advanced and know what you're looking at.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. That's in detail. So don't hit me up asking about all this shit. You just heard it. Because here's the thing, dude. I'm going to get a bunch of questions sent into my DMs over that. Guys, go back and listen again if you're interested, guys, girls, whatever. Obviously, if you're one of my clients and you're competing in the Natural Bodybuilding Federation, you can't take it. It's that's just part of it. That's why I don't spend a lot of time with them. And I'll be honest, Jason, and with the listeners, I don't know shit about them because I just never have researched it.
You haven't had need to do it.
No,
right.
I'm not going to. So
right.
I'm just not too worried about it. So don't hit me up. Trying to save my DMs right now. All right. Yes. The next question, speaking of insulin sensitivity, Macy Richardson asks, I'm trying to reset my insulin sensitivity and nothing I do is bringing my morning blood sugar reading down below 100. It's around 105 average. What do I need to do? I'm eating at about a 25% deficit for maintenance. So she's cut her calories down, low carbs, which are pre and post only, like we talked about, and it just won't budge. So this is something for those listening that are going to be in my class. I guess it's the day this releases, or maybe in a future class. This is something that I discussed. Jason, you've done it as well at the Physique Summit, just all over the place. We've talked about it on the podcast before. We do see these people that no matter what they do, their morning numbers just won't go down. And that's usually the dawn phenomenon. And it's one of those things when I can't get someone to budge and they're doing everything right. They're taking I wish I would find out if she was taking a GDA, but say she's taking a GDA, a glucose disposal agent, like your GDA Max.
And if not, get GDA Max. It'll help you.
Right. And then she's doing everything else. I have them start measuring their blood sugar about 3 hours after one of their carb meals. And then I have them track that for a week. And usually I just did it with a client of mine named Christy from Nebraska. She just did this as well. She's real low in the morning. And I thought, you know what? Like she's pretty lean. She's not eating a shit ton. She hasn't been off season too awful long, only 6 months. She did a really good job coming out of prep. I had her measure for a week and she was like 86 average. And I'm like, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, don't even worry about it. Just keep taking a GDA and just don't worry about it. So that's generally the issue. Did I miss anything there, Jason? Is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I'll add just a few things. So like John's right on the money with the dawn phenomenon. And, when those are high like that, that's exactly what I do too. Exactly what he did with the postprandial readings. If you want to try to bring the dawn phenomenon down, usually that's a stress issue. So you could hit some Cordy's or your favorite cortisol product the night before bed and see if that helps. My other two thoughts are, how are you sleeping? How is your gut health? And how are your stress levels in general? Because, you can be doing all the things that you listed, and let's say the postprandial numbers are high. So they come back at 110, 115. Then it's like, what else is going on? And that's when I'm like, you got to look at your gut health. You got to look at your sleep. You got to look at your cortisol. One of the two of those are probably going to be off if you're doing everything with the diet that you need to be doing, and you're struggling to get it down. And by struggling, I mean 4 weeks of doing proper things with diet, because this does take time. But then after that, if you're still shooting shitty numbers, you got to diet. You got to look at other areas of the body, because all these other areas can affect insulin sensitivity.
Yeah, 100%, man. Last question comes from Jason Tolbertson. It's a good one for kind of where we're at right now with immunity and stuff. How much vitamin C should I take daily? And is too much a bad idea? Really good question. I think a lot of people don't put a lot of stock into how much. And I think a lot of people, it's probably one of those things. I think some are taking it. Some are probably, they just forget. I know on my client form, whenever I send everybody their notes that has their supplement protocol I put together for them, I usually have 1,000 mgs of vitamin
Mm-hmm.
C listed after their workout to help fight free radicals. It's an
Yeah.
antioxidant to kind of help
It's
with
cheap.
immunity. It's it's very, very cheap. I like pills in a powder form, with some bioflavonoids in there as well. And I've always had my clients at least try and take 1,000 milligrams a day. I know myself right now, because I just got done dieting really fucking hard for like 5-6 weeks, got a lot of fat off. Dieting suppresses your immune system as well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I've actually bumped mine up to 2,000.
Yeah.
I haven't had any issues with that. But Jason, I'm kind of curious what your take is on this. What do you recommend?
For immunity, I'm right at 2,000 milligrams to 3,000, but you could go up to 5 when you've actually got a cold or you're fighting something. And here's the thing with vitamin C. Even if you overshoot it, you just pee it out. It just passes via the urine. So there's really not a toxicity issue. So like I said, if you're fighting something, go ahead and rock it up to 500 milligrams.
Yeah. Also, it's one of those things too, where you hear reports that super high doses can cause things like diarrhea. It can cause dehydration and stuff like that. I haven't really ran into that myself or with clients. Back in the old days, back when we used to do some of these peak weeks, like we both used to do, I would load Ester C on a Friday. I don't know if I learned that from you or Mark, or I just tried it myself. But like
that was Mark, because it's extra diuresis, I believe.
That's what it was, kind of like a diuretics to help, quote unquote, pull the water off.
And let's point out too, like sometimes for constipation, I use vitamin C up to 5 grams. Like it'll get you moving. You don't normally need that much, so if you take it the day before a show, it can clean out your bowels too, so your stomach's tighter.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to add there?
No, between you and I, we covered it.
Yeah, man. Well, that was a fun Ask Us Anything. Episode 21 is coming up, and we've got, you and I have been talking about some guests to have on the show. So we're going to have some more guests on. So I'll talk to you off air about that. I don't really have anything else, guys. We just ask that you please leave a review, keep spreading the word, and screenshot us so we can see it. We really appreciate you. So for myself and Jason, we're out of here. Thanks, guys.
See ya.